Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the North Carolina podcast presented by FanDuel. This is Sicko Soundoff. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo, and we want to hear from you tonight. That's what this is all about. And I know we've had the format change a little bit before. As you guys probably know, we go ahead and introduce the first few guests on via our Discord. So if you, of course, want to be on as a guest in the future, make sure you're in our Discord. But the show's open. Links in the chat right now. You want to come on, you have something to say. The Pirates just ended the winter meetings. They got lefty reliever Gregory Soto. That's it. No big deal was made. No big hitter was made. A lot of talk. No real big action. So I'm sure a lot of you have something to say, and here's your opportunity to do it. So, again, like as mentioned, the winter meetings wrapped up. The Pirates went in there. They've offered a contract to Schwarber. This, of course, was after all the talks about they were in on Schwarber, but turns out that they did go ahead and, in fact, offer a 4-year, $125 million deal to Schwarber, which, in fact, of course, he did turn down. Goes back to Philadelphia for a 5-year, $150. Sounds like Baltimore matched that offer. The Reds also had a 5-year deal in play, although less money. So there were certainly teams in on him. Sounds like the Pirates were one of them. It sounds as if there was a legit offer. This wasn't just a PR move, albeit certainly not the contract Schwarber was looking for. And then since then, it doesn't seem like they've certainly pivoted to one direction and got anyone. Like Baltimore did. They went and got Pete Alonso. They certainly had their feelers out there, but nothing as of yet. Right, this big bat, this 2 or 3 bat that they're trying to target. Nothing there yet. Again, they got Gregory Soto, a lefty reliever, which of course they did need, but the bats are what's really important this offseason. Nothing there yet. So as mentioned, we want to hear from you. What do you guys have to say? Links in the chat. We're going to bring on our first guest. That is John. John, welcome back to the show. What you got to say?
Yeah, so you mentioned there about how the Schwarber move wasn't just a PR stunt. And I know initially whenever the news reported that they offered a deal to Schwarber, that they offered a deal to Naylor, that they were in the market for all these guys, a lot of people were saying that this was a PR stunt. And I'm starting to think that if it was poorly calculated because it's starting to look like it might backfire a little bit on them. And at best case, it's obvious that it wasn't PR because this is what could have happened. Everybody has said ad nauseum by now that no one wants to come here. And it's very difficult to play in the free agent market whenever no one wants to come here. You have to overpay, and we're not really in a position to overpay. So at this point, I'm just wondering to what extent they need to add to make the average fan happy. Because they did set the expectations unusually high for once, and there hasn't been anything to show so far. And we're still a month and a half away from pitchers and catchers. But
I guess my point of view on that, and let me ask you, I'm going to throw this back at you. Did they make the expectations higher by going after Schwarber? Like, is that what's...
I would say so. Yeah. And Once again, to the average fan, they're now perceiving that as we have that $125 million to throw around, either whether that be the 31 and a quarter AAV that the contract would have been, or the total sum of the contract. That they were going to throw that around, plus still make some ads. So I feel like the fact that they did offer that deal sets them up to people saying, like, the money was available. Why haven't you spent it yet?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, why haven't you spent it yet? That's a certainly valid argument, right? They have money. We knew they have sitting about $60 million. Even to get back to last year, you're looking to get about $30 million. So, like, we know money is there to spend. It just, to me, sounds as if, I'll give you this point. No one expected them to go after Schwarber. Even when you heard the talks, it ain't for real. I mean, they're talking to anyone and everyone, but this isn't legit until you saw that an offer was made. I guess the way I look at it as, and then hearing back from this, is like, that was the one guy. Like, they really wanted Schwarber. And again, they have $30 million to spend. Now, that would have probably maximized about everything. I guess that maybe would have leaned into maybe a color trade afterwards. Right? Like, we know we have $30 million. That would have pretty much exhausted it all. So I guess the way I look at it is if that would have almost equated to Keller is getting traded to free up that next $16 million to then go ahead and get the other pieces that they do need. I don't know if this really, like I said, like raised the bar. They need bats. they need bats. What I think that did was validate that they're serious this offseason.
Yeah, and I know that Alex Stumpf came out and pretty much said that he was their white whale. They allocated more resources than they normally would into trying to get him. I'm not sure if that meant that Ben had to sell Bob on the idea. I mean, he's the owner. He would have had to sign off on any deal, so I'm sure that's what that implies. And I feel like a lot of fans are now pivoting to we need to sign Cody Bellinger. Like I saw
Right.
Jim in the Discord earlier posted something like 7 years, 200 million to make it happen. And I don't think they value them the same. I don't know exactly why that is, because Bellinger does have the defense aspect to him. I'm assuming they just want the most power they can get, and Schwarber is that. It just seems like they might not spend as much as it would seem for somebody that was making a serious bid at Kyle Schwarber.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely fair. I guess in my mind too, like I would love for them to pivot and go after Bellinger. I mean, if 125 was essentially there, why not add a couple more years to a guy who's 2 years younger, and give him more or less like this same type of contract, whether it might be like like a 160 or something like he's looking for, maybe a little higher, 170. Like maybe that works out to some level, some degree. But it doesn't seem as if that is the direction they are going. Like you mentioned with Alex Stumpf, what he said, and it makes sense because like of that caliber of free agent talent, you don't really see them linked to them. It was like Schwarber, and then it falls off to like the Aherns, the Polancos, in that level. But I would welcome it for sure. I think a Bellinger makes a lot of sense for this club, but it doesn't seem as if that is the way they're going. They are pivoting more towards right now. It seems like they're really in on Jorge Polanco, maybe the trade market, like a Brandon Lau. But again, what I do think is, me personally, what I'm going to express is, I don't think the Schwarber should like raise expectations for this offseason. I think the Schwarber, I always hate the preferences, but like you have to, because I understand Pirates fans are so jaded, right? But like it should validate their intentions of what they're trying to do this offseason.
Yeah, and then like you said, because Pirates fans are so jaded, that's partially what this is about.
Right.
Expectations for every offseason are non-existent. And there's a decent chunk of the fan base that still thinks that Schwarber move was performative. There's a decent chunk of national media writers out there trying to pitch that narrative that it was performative. And
Yeah.
that's a different topic for another day. I don't think it was performative. I think it was a legitimate offer. But I guess the crux of my question is, like, if they trade for Brandon Lau, they miss out on Polanco, and Willie Castro is their backup option. They've been connected to him, and let's say Max Kepler. Those are your three. Those are your three bad additions: Max Kepler, Brandon Lau, and Willie Castro. Is that a successful offseason?
No.
Yeah. See, I feel like in a general Pirates offseason, that would be perceived as a win. You're bringing in in that scenario, 2 former All-Stars, 2 30 homer guys in the past, would be perceived as a win. But in this scenario where we set the bar so high, it'd be a loss.
Yeah. Again, like that's a valid point. I guess my expectations going into this offseason is that there probably wasn't a success to begin with. So whether Schwarber was linked or not, is that really, what it takes? Is that really what it's going to be? It makes them better for sure, but it's not as if like they got the bats, or a couple of bats that they're really looking to set them apart, to really be serious, to really go into to contend this year and be a playoff team.
So if what I posited is not a successful offseason, where do you draw that line? Like, what do they need to break the 39 mil Liriano record? Do they need to just sign a multi-year free agent? Do they need to make a big splashy trade and go get like CJ Abrams or Wilson Contreras or something like that?
I mean, there's many ways to accomplish this. I don't want to like draw a line in the sand and say they have to break Liriano for it to be success. If they made 3 trades, and like they got an Abrams, I don't think, but like say they got an Abrams, they got a Lau, and they got the Stephen Kwan, something like that. And those are all breaking that deal. But like you look at those three players and okay, that's a success. That raised the bar here. Like in totality, I'm going to look back at the offseason and see if it's a success or not. Not one move should reflect if this was a successful offseason or not. Like the Garcia trade, like that, I shouldn't look at that trade and say anything more than like it's a good baseball trade. What I don't like about it is, it doesn't really set them for success this year. Truthfully, like ensure you are, but it could, like there's talent there. What's next? Right? Like that's what the offseason should be, is like at the end of the offseason, looking back and then justifying like, was this a success or not? So that's why I guess like to truly answer your question, I don't have like they have to break Liriano. I mean, I want them to, they should, the way they're talking, they just offered $125 million contract. That was going to blow that out the water. Right. So like, why can't they go ahead and get a Polanco? Why can't they go out there and get one of the Japanese hitters? Why can't they go out there and get Mahorn or someone else? Like I think they have all the ability to, that those guys would make them better. But like, if they don't and they do it another way, I'm not going to bash them for just not going out there and getting a free agent more than $39. The team's better and it's a contender. The team's better and it's a contender, no matter how they did it.
Yeah. I do think that the getting one of the Japanese players, I don't know about that. I feel like Murakami is going to have too strong of a market, and he doesn't really. Well, he would kind of just then fill the DH role. I feel like Okamoto is the one that we've been more attached to, and if you do sign him, I think Fangraphs projected him 4 years, $64 million. And if you sign that deal, then you're also looking at an $11.5 million posting fee. So his upfront cost this year would be 27.5. So I think then you're back in a position where you need to trade Keller to fill the other holes. I don't know where you stand currently about trading from the major league starting pitching.
I don't want to trade too much more. I like Oviedo because you could pencil him in. He's going to give you innings. He's going to give you good solid innings. That's what Mitch Keller is, to another level, of course. So like you've already gotten rid of Oviedo. Trading Mitch Keller makes sense financially if you're going to reinvest and reallocate those dollars into maybe hitters and such, while also adding another pitcher. Again, my dream does include trading Mitch Keller. Okay, because I just truly feel that this team, in order to get to where they need to be, they're probably going to have to do it. I feel like to open up some more resources to allocate those funds to hitting, trading Mitch Keller, getting $16 million more to go out there, maybe using 5 to 8 of it towards another pitcher. Again, like I talked about Jose Quintana, that's a lefty, it's a veteran. He loved his time here when he was here. A lot of guys loved him or respected him when he was here. Bringing like a Jose Quintana in replacement of Mitch Keller, while using those extra dollars that you're getting back in the Mitch Keller deal to go ahead and maybe get one of those guys you talked about. Like, yeah, that's going to cost you more this year. Maybe that's a way of doing it. Right now, you have a legit lineup. You run the risk of losing a Mitch Keller, losing those innings. But again, to me, this is a team that has to play risks. You need to take risks. And I feel like you have to, if you're going to make a risk somewhere, it's on the backs of your pitching. It's saying like, listen, we know what we got. We know we can develop. Let's go out there and do it. We can't do this. Let's allocate the funds and shore that up. But I'm all for trading Mitch Keller if that's what you have to do. Now, I do think that they're in a situation where they don't necessarily have to, right? They don't have to. And again, by losing Oviedo, losing a Keller on top of that is going to make a big dent there. So you have to worry about how much pitching you want to deal in a sense. But like, I feel like they have to, if they're going to trade Mitch Keller, you have to go ahead and get another pitcher on the market, preferably a lefty. And that's why Quintana makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I will say, looking at the lefty market, it's pretty barren, especially in that price range. Like if you want to splurge and get one of the 2 top guys, then it's a pretty nice market. But below those 2 top guys, there's a massive drop off, and you are looking at Quintana, or maybe like, I know on the Discord we've kicked around John Means' name a lot, WVU alum, who used to be good but hasn't really pitched much in the last 2 to 3 years. But something like that on a pretty cheap deal makes sense if they do trade him. It seems to me, just based on rumors, that they're going to move another one, because towards the back end of the winter meeting, it came out that they're willing to trade Jones or Bubba for a large haul, and also that they prefer to move Keller or Burrows. It's interesting that the only pitcher that hasn't been in any rumors is Ashcraft, but They must really like him. But
When I hear they do really like him, as they should.
Yeah.
He's super
Yeah.
talented.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think also it's interesting that the opinion on trading pitching seems to have changed a lot post the Schwarber decision. A lot more people now are saying we should just keep Mitch and run with what we got. But I guess my other question would be like, if we do miss out on Polanco, where is the next bat target? Because it seems like in that next tier, it's like Polanco and O'Hearn for me personally, and then another large drop off.
Well, Brandon Lau's name's been out there. Seems like the Arizona Diamondbacks
Or do you
are
just do
emerging as a
trades?
suitor. That
Or do you just do trades at that point?
Well, again, I mean, you find it where you can get it. I think the biggest thing that works in the Pirates' favor this year, and think about this, they need offense in such a big way that it doesn't matter who it is. So, like, they shouldn't be and can't be uber focused on like a certain specific player. So if it's not Polanco, on to the next one. If it's not Lau, on to the next one. You know, there's certainly plenty of bats out there, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through a trade. So, you know, again, like I think that works in their favor because it's not as if like if they miss out on Polanco, well, we're done. Like that was the guy we needed. Off season's cooked. What are we gonna do? Right? If they miss out on Polanco, let's go to Lau. If they miss out on Lau, maybe it's going to the Cardinals to some level. You know, I think there's plenty of options out there. Ketel Marte, I want to ask your opinion on that. What do you think about Ketel Marte if that's going to cost, say, a Bubba or an Ashcraft or something like that level?
I would do Bubba and maybe a little bit more for Marte. He's a top 15 to 20 player in the game, and those guys just don't become available ever. Also, he's on a very advantageous contract because of the deferrals. The next 5 years, he's only getting paid 46 mil, so like 9 mil average contract. It's very difficult to find that. Actually, it's pretty much impossible to find that. So yeah, I would make whatever move possible, but they're on his no trade list, obviously, and I feel like Arizona will be able to get a pretty nice package from a Boston, New York, maybe even Tampa. I saw was pushing for him and dangling some MLB ready pitchers with control. So, but I do think that if I had to guess right now, if I had to put money, I would say that they will trade for Lau, because that report came out the other day that said it's between the Pirates and a mystery team. And generally, whenever I see a mystery team, that's the trading team trying to drive up cost. So I'm leaning towards them doing that as their first big move, and then hopefully it will become a little easier to sign a free agent.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean I like the sentiment of that, and that's something I've certainly been on board with. I do believe that they're probably going to have to make a trade first. You know, even like the Polancos. You know, I like what you guys are selling me. I like what you guys are telling me, but I'm sure the free agents are also in the same mindset of like many Pirates fans. Prove it. You know, am I going to come out over here to Pittsburgh and be left stranded because I'm it, and now I just signed 3 years of my life over to you guys, and this is all you're putting around me? I'm the guy. Like, you know, Jorge Polanco can't be the man. You know, that's the one thing. Like a Schwarber could be the guy. If he was here and left alone, he's going to succeed still. But maybe like a Jorge Polanco, like those guys can't be the man. So they have to have some other talent around them as well. So, you know, I think that if they made a trade for a Lau and now Polanco's, you know, he's weighing it. Well, you know what? I'm starting to see the vision. I'm starting to see it. If I come here also, there's not much more that needs to be done. You know, I have some faith in you. You guys already made a trade here. You made a trade there. I signed as a free agent. We can start to cook. So I think, again, I think a trade makes a whole lot of sense because it's going to take something for these free agents to buy into what you're selling them as a free agent contract.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of re-ask the question you asked me about trading Bubba, is there a pitcher that you just don't listen to any offers on? Even throwing Skeens in there, would you do a Skeens for an Ohtani? Maybe if they covered the money. Um, just is there a prospect where you
if
wouldn't
this
want to?
hypothetical trade of Skeens for Ohtani came about, and the Pirates only need to pay $2 million a year, the Dodgers are covering the deferrals as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. You have to say yes, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like there's one player that I would take over Skeens, and it's probably like Ohtani. So sure, but in like the real world, Skeens is off hands. Like he's not
If
being
there
touched.
was a pitcher that you wanted to trade at this point, is it Keller? Is it Burrows? Do you think that you could get a higher impact bat for trading somebody in the tier above that, in the Ashcraft, Chandler?
Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. And I guess it just comes down to Keller. I guess it just really does, because arm talent wise, these other guys that are coming at up probably have more, except for maybe Burrows. I mean, you can maybe argue that. I think you probably could feel good if Burrows turned into a Mitch Keller, right? But he has years of control. He's cheap. Mitch Keller has $16 million. That's a huge difference right there. It frees up some money. So I guess and again, like it comes down to the package. Like I'm not trading Mitch Keller for a Brandon Lau by any means, right? Brandon Lau's not probably going to cost any of those pitchers that are in the rotation right now. He's probably costing more like a prospect. So I mean, that's what's kind of advantageous about that, is like you're acquiring a need right now with probably without touching any of the pitchers today, right? That's going to be in the Pirates' benefit. That's something that kind of hurts them, I feel like, to some levels, because a lot of the pieces that they have that are desirable are guys that are here today. That's going to help the major league team now. So to get rid of that to add something else washes to some level, where if you're trading just prospects, all that talent is coming into the major league that's helping you out there. So I think, again, like I think a Brandon Lau makes a lot of sense for that reason. But when it comes to a pitcher, there's not, other than Skeens, there's not one I'm saying fully off limits. If it is Bubba Chandler, it's got to be a dude of dudes that's coming here. Like again, like that Ketel Marte is kind of where that is. I don't know if there's really any other trade targets on the market right now that I'm giving up above before. The rest, I'm perfectly okay with it, depending on what the return is. If that makes sense, and that makes sense. Again, probably why you're going back out into free agency to acquire another pitcher to some level. And I say that because the Pirates have been successful in doing so. I mean, they've had typically, I loved Heaney last year, and it was looking good at first and didn't end up that way. They've had a lot of success in acquiring guys and turning them to useful pieces. Again, Quintana was one of those. Tyler Anderson was one of those, right? They've done pretty good on bringing in guys, especially like a lefty. It wasn't a free agent, but Bailey Falter, another example, where they come in and they exceed your expectations. So I depend on them to probably try to do that, trade Keller and Cook, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's just well established at this point that lefties play well in PNC, and also to a lesser extent, fly ball pitchers in general. Like that's why Keller's ERA is a full run lower at PNC versus the road. And there's a lot of pitchers that are like that, and PNC is really hard to hit a home run. So any fly ball pitcher would probably overperform here, and you can get those. Another lefty name that has been mentioned.
Will want to come here.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you're somebody that just had a down year or something and you want to reestablish your value, like Quintana did. Quintana came here, pitched well, got traded, and then signed a nice little deal with the Mets. Tyler Anderson did the same thing, signed a nice little deal with the Angels. So something like that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
My lights just went out.
But yeah. Well, at least we still got the neon ones.
Right. It's NS9 After Dark now, apparently. But yeah, no, and I appreciate all that. I still believe in this offseason to some level. Like they're going to go out there and try. Again, all we know is they are trying. I do believe there's a legit try, but all it is so far is a try. How they execute is what's going to matter. Let's wait and see.
Would you have a guess on who their next target is, free agent wise, if they miss out on Polanco?
Good question. I really don't know. I really don't. Again, from what I know in here, like Polanco's the guy right now. I'm not hearing too much other than, interest. We like this. We're talking. It could be in O'Hearn. I don't know, but like, there's nothing that makes me believe O'Hearn is the next guy, right? There's nothing out there that leads me to believe this one's the next guy after Polanco if they miss out. So I don't know either one way or the other. It would just be speculation, but I guess it would Hearn because he is in that level of the Polancos that they've been talking to and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really have much more. Anybody else lined up?
Cool. Yeah, we got Connor on here. He's waiting. To
go. Okay, great.
So, all right, John. Appreciate you coming on once again.
Thank you for having me.
We'll talk to you later.
Later.
All right, guys. So yeah, the link is in the chat. If you want to come on, you have something to say, even if it's real quick. If you want to tell me how terrible I am, how bad my takes are. I know you Facebook people, you have a lot of stuff to say in the comments. So come out here and tell me to my face. Something you want to say, come on over. The link's in the chat. We have Connor up next. Connor, what's up?
Am I on? Hello.
Hola.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So, full disclosure, I just got home from dinner. I am a little tipsy. Just all
what
my.
Did you have to eat?
I had Tuscany chicken. It was incredible.
Okay.
So it was like mushrooms, spinach. It was very good.
Good stuff.
Obviously chicken. Oh, is my
chicken noodle soup. I'm a little
my
under the
thing
weather.
Not working? That's a little weird. I had to reinstall my webcam software because I restarted. I reset my Windows installation. Anyways, a little unfortunate that that's not working. Anyways, yeah, man, how you doing?
Good. Outside of this cough I have now.
Oh, that's not good. So here is a thought that I had, which is really what this is supposed to be all about. If they were in on Schwarber in part because if they were willing to give $30 million and blow 80 to 90% of their offseason on one player, in part because they thought he was both the perfect fit and because they thought that he was the leader that this offense needed, which seems to be the case. That is what most of the reporting has been, that it wasn't just the player that he was, it was also the leader that he was. Is there not a case for them to be in on Bregman, who has been lauded his entire career as a fantastic leader on offense? People in Boston this past year talked about Alex Bregman as a second manager. If you're willing to go $30 million on a player to get the player and the leader that you need, you should maybe think about being in on Bregman.
Yeah.
Especially because his market is not appearing to be robust.
Certainly, what do you think Bregman would cost?
Oh, that's a better question. That's a more intriguing question because I think by far the most likely outcome there, it's kind of similar to Schwarber in some ways, but also very much not. Bregman appears to be the most likely destination for him appears to be Boston. I think he's made it very apparent that he very much likes it there. That is very similar to Schwarber. And it is very much apparent that, he's going to get a high dollar figure, but he may not get the years that he wants. And I think that is the difference from him and Schwarber, is that I think Schwarber's market was a little more robust than Bregman's is. I think that Bregman needs, and this is, I am a big advocate of, there are a lot of people that talk about the Pirates. Well, they should go out and sign right-handed pitching, or they shouldn't go out and sign right-handed hitters. Maybe I'm just delusional, but I think everybody seems to forget the MVP of the league won playing half of his home games in PNC and was right-handed. And he had seasons where he hit 30 homers here. It can be done. That's not really how park factors work. That's not really how they work. Now I agree that I think it is maybe a little different for guys like Bregman, and it is a little different for guys like Paredes, who maybe do actually need a specific park to be the most effective in. But hitters like Yandy Diaz, I've always been adamant that we saw Matt Holliday tear up this team for years. The
Y'all
reason
could
why
just-
right-handed hitters don't do good is because they don't sign any good right-handed hitters. It's
Well,
not because
yeah.
right-handed hitters can't hit in PNC. Like Brian Reynolds has had a slugging well over 400 every year except for one at home, hitting right-handed. So that's specifically his right-handed split. He slugged well over 400 every year except for, I think, 2024, weirdly. Even this year, which was a down year, I believe he was over 400. So I've long been an opponent of, you can't sign right-handed hitters because of park factor. But I mean, if they were in on Schwarber in part because of his leadership qualities and were willing to blow 80% of the offseason on him, third base is a need. Bregman's a leader. Why not him?
I think that's a very good question. I would love Alex Bregman on this team.
And they haven't been tied to him at all. So I mean it is more of a question than a gotcha thing, where it's like, why specifically were they in on Schwarber and out on Bregman?
Is it silly for me to think that like Schwarber was still a bit of a pipe dream? And let's be honest, the contract they gave him kind of showed it. Like, yeah, it was competitive. They didn't want to go more than 4 years on him. And Alex Bregman playing the field, it's almost like the same thing with I'm sorry. I'm always terrible with names. Anyways, what I'm alluding to is if Schwarber they're capping out at 4 years, is that what's going to get Bregman in here? I almost feel like Bregman, even they recognize, is just out of reach for them. Schwarber was maybe there. Like he's probably out of reach, but that's a guy we'll give our best offer, and their best was 4 years, 125.
I don't know that Bregman is going to get the same deal I don't know that Bregman is going to get what Schwarber got.
Yeah.
Because
if that's the case, I'm with you.
He's certainly a lesser hitter, and he certainly needs a better fit, which is why I kind of firmly believe. Oh, my entire.
You there?
Yes, I am there. My entire PC just kind of blipped out there for a moment.
You're good.
Anyways, so I'm not sure that Bregman is gonna. Yeah, I don't know. Like Windows updated while I was out, so I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways, like Bregman is certainly a lesser hitter than Schwarber is. I think Schwarber is such a good hitter that teams kind of ignore that Bregman would have, a lot, much more defensive, value. Like not even that Bregman doesn't even just have defensive value. He's a plus defender at third.
Oh yeah.
He's a,
I mean, anyone's going to be a drop off from Brian Hayes, but that's a guy where you can put in there and say, you know what, the defense is going to be very similar. It's not as if you're going from, and I'm just throwing out there because he probably wouldn't play third base, but like if you sign a Jorge Polanco to play third base, you're going to notice a difference.
Right. That would I think this ties into another discussion, like the conversation, like Brandon Lau is a really bad second base defender, which is true. He's always been a below average second base defender. And as he's gotten older, he's gotten worse. But like the conversation that he's more valuable as a DH, that's kind of not true, at least by I'm sure there are certain team fits where he would be more useful at DH, but by the WAR math, you have to be overwhelmingly bad at second base.
Right. Or just defend
the DH adjustment is so brutal that you need to be really, really, really bad. But that's not really the case for Bregman. That would be I would be I think it matters more. It certainly matters more for third base than it does for second base, which is why I've kind of if we're upgrading in other areas, the whole I'm fine with Moncada thing, I'm kind of not, because Moncada was a traffic cone last year. He's really bad. I don't think people know how bad he was because he played on the Angels and he was hurt again. In 600 innings there, it was negative 12 DRS and negative 13 outs above average. That's half a season, and he was on pace for negative 26 outs above average.
Right.
That's the kind of hitter, especially on the on the left side of the infield, sorry, that I think that actually does come into consideration where it's this guy's a total traffic cone there. I don't think that that really matters for Brandon Lau. I still think he's much more valuable at second base. The thing that would actually push Lau to DH is his health. The thing that would actually push Lau to DH is that the team needs him to hit. And Lau has a fairly lengthy injury. Not anything super serious, but it is significant enough that he's missing 20 games every year that they would need him to DH a little more just to keep him around.
Yeah. No,
but
I mean, that's fair.
That's the question that I was really posing, was that, like, for me, I understand the concerns with Eugenio Suarez and being a right-handed hitter. Like but him and Bregman are like, why not? If you're, especially Bregman, if you're going in on Schwarber because he's a leader, Bregman's, maybe he's not considered to be the best clubhouse guy in the game, but again, like in Boston, they were talking about that guy like he was a second manager.
Right. I would, again, like, I would welcome him, and maybe I'm overvaluing him, but I guess my point of view is,
and that certainly seems to be the opinion that
out
teams
of
have.
the price range.
If the reports are to be believed that his market is not as robust, and then he might end up going back to the Red Sox on the same terms that he just opted out of.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it is, again, in some ways it's similar, in some ways it's not, that his most likely destination is Boston and he wants to be there, but he's not going to have the suitors that Schwarber had, because I think his fits are less good. There seem to be less teams very interested in him than teams that were very interested in Schwarber. And again, like, this is pipe stream stuff, because I don't think the player would actually want to come here. They have a fit that will offer them substantial money that will be where they want to be rather than here. So right. I think that really leaves you with Suarez, which again, I understand the concerns. Like, there are concerns that I have them too, but like, I'm willing to take that 50-50 coin flip that Suarez continues to be good.
And again, like, I feel like it's going to be a shorter deal. To me, that's just part of it.
Like what
guys
are you
that are going to have to be long term? Because again, like, even a Bellinger, like, it looks like he's probably going to be about the 30 million or less than like what Schwarber was going to be. And again, he's 2 years younger than Schwarber. It's like, that makes sense, but maybe they're just very hesitant on going more than 4 years on, on guys.
I can't imagine. I don't think Bregman's going to get more than 4. I don't think Bregman's going to get a 5-year deal.
He could, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's actually been linked to Bregman? It's been the Cubs, which has been varying degrees of interest depending on who's reporting it. Boston, although Boston's looking at seemingly everybody. And I mean, who Scott Boras apparently allegedly reached out to Seattle to say, like, Bregman would be interested in coming there. Like, it seems that is a much more active effort to pitch Bregman to teams, whereas Schwarber was, you didn't have to make that pitch. That seems to be the difference. Was Schwarber was like, past Tucker, past Bichette, the guy people wanted.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Who do you want to see next?
Who do I want to see next? To be honest, if there was a first. Right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, I think they are serious in their offers, but I also think they're still incompetent and bad. Like, this idea that, like, oh, if Schwarber said yes, they would, like, turn it down. I don't think that's a little nonsensical to me. That goes against, as a general rule of thumb, there are certain people that if they say things and characterize things a certain way, that if it's them and only them saying it, I tend to not believe it. And I'm not gonna like badmouth anybody here, but the people that are saying that the Schwarber deal was just eyewash, those seem to be in the minority here.
And I agree. If he would have signed,
these are, I don't think these are good baseball people. I don't think these are people that are not good at their jobs. I think these are people that should not have had their jobs through this year. But there is a certain level of professional veneer you have to maintain. And part of that is not some grand Bob Nutting conspiracy that we're going to offer players money, and if they say yes, we're going to back out. That's a little ridiculous. That's a little too tinfoil hat for me, personally. And the other thing there is like you don't even have to do those mental gymnastics to be able to still call them cheap. Like if they signed Schwarber for 30 million, they'd be at like 90 to 95 million in terms of payroll. I guess 97 now after Gregory Soto, but that happened after Schwarber was signed.
Sure.
So who knows if that would have happened? It probably would not have. But if they get up to 90 million, you can still call them cheap.
Well, that's why
there are no mental gymnastics required.
Right. But again, like, yeah, that's why I keep bringing it up in this whole offseason. Like they will spend money. They have to. But even when they do, there's still going to be bottom tier payroll.
Right. You're still going to be able to
they have to spend $30 million just to get to bad payroll. So it will happen.
Correct.
It just depends on how they utilize those funds, where they, allocate them, and the type of players they bring in with the $30 million.
So to get back to your original question that you asked me, was that who I want to see next? In terms of the process, the outfield market is really bad. And I'm not sure if they are not confident in Jhostynxon Garcia to be the opening day guy, which I think they shouldn't be. I think he's certainly a quality option for the future. I think he's certainly interesting. I'm not sure that you should just plug him into the opening day and pray. I think it would make.
Well, if you hear and believe what Ben says, it doesn't sound as if that was the intent of the trade. He's
right, correct.
To add depth, but it's not to be with ink penciling in your everyday left or right fielder.
So people have brought up Bader. I don't know that, because I think Bader will go, because teams that want him as a center fielder will pay him more. And here there's obviously less opportunity for him as a center fielder. So that doesn't, and he also loses value when he's not a center fielder. So that kind of marriage doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Bader's also a right-handed hitter also, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that's also compounding. Like if you have Garcia on the opening day roster, or if he debuts at some point, how you split that timeshare in left field, or maybe you do it like maybe my PC. Am I still here? I guess I'm still here.
You're still here.
Yeah, I don't know. My PC's blinking in and out. I think it has something to do with the webcam software. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know how you would manage that timeshare between Bader and Garcia if Garcia is on the team. So that doesn't seem like the best marriage to me. Yastrzemski was the guy I was really looking at there. I didn't want Lane Thomas. I'm glad they did not get him. Honestly, I would be kind of interested in Kepler. The peripherals were not that bad. I know he had an OPS over 700, under 700, in a pretty good place to hit, surrounded by good hitters, which is a little concerning. He's also been very up and down throughout his career, but like in terms of, yes, yeah. How do we feel about Max Kepler? I would feel pretty okay about it. The outfield market is really bad. Like this is, the past few off seasons have been pretty light. This is especially light. Past Tucker and Bellinger, there's kind of nothing. Yaz was probably the third best outfielder on the market this offseason. And that guy's like 35.
We're really going down there with the Kepler one, huh? This is the Pittsburgh Pirates I know.
I would not oppose it. Like if they like trade for Lau and sign like on its own, like obviously Kepler as like if you're expecting that to drive your offense, like that's not serious. That's not a serious thing to do.
I liked Kepler a few years back. I was all on board Kepler for quite a few years, a few years back and such.
There's just
at this point in time in his career, I don't know if I'm really for it. Now I'll say this, and this kind of goes back to John's point. I'm not going to be the one that's going to like look at every individual move and just like, well, that's it. We're done. This offseason's over with. We're cooked.
Right.
I think you have to look at this in totality. Like, I guess the thing I'll put at you is if getting a Schwarber meant you're kind of going and taking the risk of like a Garcia Kepler platoon and left.
Right.
Is that the sacrifice you're willing to make? Like in that sense, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying like, I could maybe be bought into something like this, into something like let's go cheap in a platoon style and left field because we spent and allocated these funds.
Correct.
Like
that I think that's
Schwarber.
The idea here, and I think the idea here on why you would get Keller first is that the outfield market appears to be kind of moving right now.
Yeah.
The reliever in the outfield market. Like, I think it was smart that they got Soto when they did, because relievers are always the first thing to come off the board in the offseason. And there's such a scarcity of outfielders, especially, this isn't what the Pirates need. Well, at least what I think they don't need is there's such a scarcity of outfielders, and especially right-handed outfielders in general, that I think we're going to see a little bit of a run on that in teams that, are clearly not going to get Kyle Tucker and will probably not be in the Cody Bellinger market.
Mm-hmm.
That there are so few options past that we're kind of seeing those kind of evaporate off the board. So I think if you were going to employ a solution like that, that you would need to kind of do that now. Like,
I don't know.
You're not going to be, I don't think you're going to be able
I guess if the idea is, but I think
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
My bad. I was just going to say, like, I think, like, if that was the plan, then sure. But I think that plan only exists if you get a guy like a Schwarber. And since they missed out on that, I think this type of move has to, like, you have to move on from this thought. I get that's where I'm at.
Maybe. Because again, like, what is Suarez going to command? I think my nightmare scenario is like them trading Burrows to Houston for Paredes. That is my personal nightmare. Because I started this off like with saying that I have long been an advocate that, like, people campaigning against signing right-handed hitters are, like, misled. That's not really how park factors work. But Paredes is such an extreme case that in that case, I actually am legitimately worried that Chicago has, like, Wrigley has the shortest left center field of, like, any park in the country. Like, those baskets, like, there are one of 30s that happen there all the time. And Paredes did really bad there. And he's only
that's what I thought was funny.
Well, in places that are super short down the line, and he's an extreme pull fly ball hitter. So I would be concerned. That is something that I don't want to entertain. That is actually the one example where that is the exact kind of right-handed hitter that does kind of scare me at PNC.
I think that's fair. Again, that's why I thought it was funny, because when the trade happened to Chicago, that didn't make sense for him to go to Chicago either. It's like, what's Chicago doing? And then they go ahead and flip him to Houston. It's like, oh, well, that was the perfect spot.
Well, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense either, because then Chicago flipped him to Houston, and then they had Tucker, and it became pretty clear when they took him to arbitration instead of, working out some kind of deal with him, that this was like, oh, they're taking him to arbitration. That's an ugly process. They're going to let him walk in free agency. I don't understand why I don't want to say they didn't do anything, but they didn't do much at the deadline with Tucker, because they're clearly not interested in bringing him back. They're not interested at the price it's going to be anyways.
I'll say this.
That is. I don't care. Stuff, I don't care.
Let them screw it up. Let them be the ones that screw something up for once, right?
So,
but like, back to Paredes, like, I get the concerns. I talk about this a little bit. Like,
right. Yeah.
I don't think it's not a great place to play from a PNC Park. Now, it certainly will be an improvement. Like, third base, I think, will be an improvement of where it was,
better
where it is right now.
Literally,
but is it worth giving up what you have to give up to get him, to get that marginal improvement, because his value is going to decrease at PNC Park opposed to other ones? So I'm with you on there. I would welcome it, but I think there's better options to target first. That's almost like break glass in emergency. He's what's left. We got to make a move. Let's get him.
Yeah, I think that's like, if you get to like February and like you don't have anything there, I think maybe that's when you start to see those kind of options come into play, which is maybe probable, because again, Sherrington, I have absolutely no faith in them actually getting anything done. But I think, like, again, I am not anti right-handed hitter. Like, a good example of a right-handed hitter who I think would do fairly well here is like Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz I love Yandy. Now I am not entirely convinced that the Rays will move him for anything less than a haul. I'm fairly certain this was publicly reported at the time, but the Red Sox asked about Yandy Diaz. I think Carabas may have said something about this, but I also heard this other places, that the Red Sox asked about Yandy Diaz at the deadline, and the Rays wanted Rafaela. And the Red Sox then, like, oh, okay, that's a no-go. for them. So I don't know that, because there's certainly less pressure for the Rays to move Diaz than there is for them to move Lowe. They do have a lot of talented infielders. Lowe is not a good defender, and they don't have DH reps for him there. So there's pressure for them because people are coming to the infield. They have Taylor Walls. Obviously, he doesn't hit, but he's an excellent defender. They have Caminero at third. The prospect that just came up. He made his debut last year. Oh geez, I'm drawing a blank here.
Same.
He wasn't like incredibly highly regarded, but he is like a guy. And Lowe is obviously last year of control. He's in a walk here. He's making over 10 million, which for the Rays is kind of a lot. So I think there's a lot more motivation to move Lowe, and he has a lot less control than Diaz. So I'm not actually convinced they will move Diaz. But if they are open to that, and it's not
Carson Williams, by the way.
Carson Williams, yes, correct. That is something that I'd be tremendous. Dude, somebody in chat just said Jonathan Aranda. I flippin' love Jonathan Aranda. You know who's like I have like there's no way they're gonna trade him. But you know who I have as a comp for Aranda? He reminds me, it's obviously a tier above because he is somewhat, his splits are kind of are pretty noticeable, and he is like a definite step down, but it is that same kind of like profile as Freddie Freeman, where he does not have the best bat speed in the world, but what Aranda does have is tremendous barrel control.
Yeah.
And so he makes the most of the power that he has. Like, I would not say that guy has elite power, and he hit like a 467-foot homer here because he last year, and like I think that was in Baltimore. I may have watched that game because Masson is in my market. That he has such good barrel control that he gets to like the most. Like, look at like Aranda's batted ball profile is beautiful. Like, it is majority fly balls, a lot of line drives. All of them are pulled. His pull air rate is fantastic, but it's not extreme. He's willing to go the opposite way. It's so good. They're not going to trade that guy. But I mean, Yandy Diaz, like the batted ball profile for Yandy is not, I don't think that's anything that would be like hugely affected by PNC.
No.
He matches
again, to me, he is just flout. He is a hitter.
Yeah. He's
what this team
pure.
needs is hitters. He fits that definition. So, again, like with him not striking out a whole ton, he has some power, but just great contact, doesn't strike out. Like, infuse this team with more of those. That's a way I think to supplement. This team's not going to go out there and just
like that's the level of DH that I want. Like I've said all offseason that you either need to go home or go big or go home there. Like you either need to get a Schwarber, trade for a Diaz. Like there's no reason to be spending like 15 on an Ozuna.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be, you're not going to go out and spend like 10 million on Hoskins to do that. I don't think that's the right move. Like you either need to go diving or get something elite there to make the money make sense.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you're spending like $15 million on a DH, like it would just be better invested in getting a third baseman with a pulse.
Correct.
That's
why
approach to say like
case about Kutch, but we'll see that for another time.
I'm open to a lot of players, but I think I really want Suarez. How do you feel about Okamoto?
I'm fine with it.
I'm a little scared. Fine. I'm a little scared by like he played more first base in Japan in the past couple of years. That kind of does scare me a little bit because the floor for like, and this ties into people that want to trade for Kobe Mayo. Like the floor for right-handed first base is wild. Like it's very high. It's obviously not like you don't need to be like a 130 WRC plus to have value as a right-handed hitting first baseman, but like you can't be 90,
Right.
And that's
no, for sure. I would welcome it, but I am nervous on both players from Japan, if that makes sense. But again, I would welcome it. I would absolutely welcome it. It would
be something.
I feel I need a little more certainty right now going forward. So just invest the resources into the more certainty.
One last question before I get out of here.
Sure. One more.
We are running a little long here. What if they do trade for pitching? If they do trade more pitching for a bat, like say the nightmare scenario occurs that, which is how likely the nightmare scenario is for any Pirates thing ever, which is that they get to late January and like they don't have anybody at third base and they go, you know what, we're gonna Houston's asking Burrows for Paredes. We're gonna do that. If they trade Burrows and then they pivot and they add money on the pitching side, who interests you there? Because that is also a very strange market.
Well, again, I know I'm zero
because they're going to need to backfill. That, at least in my opinion, they're going to need to backfill.
And I agree. Like I just my sights are all just honed in on Jose Quintana. Like Jose Quintana needs to be a Pittsburgh Pirate in 2026. It just makes too much sense for me.
I was huge on that last year, and Q is like a phenomenal player. I think like, hold on, let me look this up because I don't want to be wrong about it. So I believe he is on the verge of being like the most valuable player ever, at least by B-War from Colombia. Like that guy rules. Like he's had a lot of great seasons in his career, which is
I've loved Q since early Chicago. I mean, you go back way back.
He's been a great pitcher in his career, and he has a lot of playoff experience. I think I was all in on it last offseason. I would have preferred that to Heaney, although I kind of talked myself into Heaney towards the end, which obviously seems to have been a mistake. But part of my thing with Quintana, why I'm not in on Quintana this offseason, is that the peripherals dropped further with the Brewers. Like this is like the third straight year. Now he did, like, to his credit, for an older guy, he did put up innings even with the injury. He got to like 140, I think.
Yep.
Hold on, was it 140 or was it 130? 130.
So I mean
that's a reasonable chunk of innings. That's about as good as you could ask of a Jose Quintana. My issue is that for like the third year in a row, the strikeout rate went in the wrong direction, and then the walk rate went in the wrong direction. Like he's having
I get it.
The stuff is getting worse, and he's having to go outside the zone more, so he's getting less Ks and walking guys. And it's pretty evident when you watch him pitch that like that is what's happening. So I would be fairly concerned there. So the guy that I think is maybe the most appealing 1-year option, I'm gonna sound insane because it's gonna be a guy that's like 5 years older, is Verlander.
Okay.
So, and I don't think the Pirates are like the worst fit for him. Like because he's at the kind of stage of his career where like he limits hard contact well, and he probably needs to go to a team that's looking to compete and also plays in a park that limits contact.
Let me ask you this. Why Verlander over Scherzer? Just out of curiosity.
I'm actually not sure. I think it is the slider for me. It is that the breaking stuff is still very, very good for a starter. Like Verlander's slider stuff plus this year was like, it was still over 120, and the curveball was still over 110. The fastball is still, it is what a 43-year-old fastball. It's as good as a 43-year-old fastball could be, but it isn't what it was. But the breaking stuff still comes in there hard. It still comes in there at 87, and it's still registering by pitch modeling as very good. It's still very sexy. So, if you can get him to spam breaking stuff and just be kind of a fly ball merchant at PNC, like you can get like 130 innings out of Verlander. Like I think that is the most appealing 1-year SP on the market, is that the breaking stuff is still good. And not just good by starter standards. That's like 120 is good by reliever standards. And those standards are higher for stuff.
So I'll tell you this. I would welcome it. Like I wouldn't be opposed to it, more or less, if that's the transition they're going here. I guess it's like I'm more interested in a lefty, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
you like
And
you
that's
like
really
that's
why
the other
I'm
thing.
kind
Like,
of zoned in on like this team needs a lefty. I mean, you got rid of Bailey Falter. Basically, Hunter Barco is like the one guy, and how many innings he's going to get? What's his role going to even be? You know, I think if I'm trading a Burrows or a Mitch Keller, which probably is going to happen at some point in time, I'm kind of targeting like what lefty do I want to bring in here?
so
Maybe it's Bailey Falter again. Let's bring him back.
maybe that's Hunter Barco, you know?
Well, I said it could be, but
also
also like how many innings is he pitching? I'm worried about that.
right. Yeah, that's fair. Like my thing is like I'm similar. I view pitchers in PNC similarly to how I view hitters. Like you play half your game somewhere else. So I don't
You
think
do.
like I don't think it's as big of a deal as the Pirates have made it be. And it's only as big a deal as the Pirates have made it to be because they kind of need it to get value out of the players that they sign in the price ranges that they're doing. You know, I think Quintana was kind of the exception to that he was really, really good. But I think he was better than kind of anybody expected him to be coming off that year that he was with the Angels. Like if he was coming off the year that he had with us, that he was with the Angels, I don't think there's a way they would have signed him. Like that that the price range that they're looking at, they factor in that like we're going to need a lefty to like get real value out of this because we're only going to sign like a guy for $4 to $8 million. And Verlander's going to be more expensive than that. Like I would imagine Verlander's probably 10 to 12, maybe 14. And the best fit for him is still San Francisco. So it's going to need to take some convincing for him to come here. But if you're trading pitching, especially like Burrows or Keller for somebody, I think that's the most appealing option to me.
Yeah.
Also, come on, the
All
aura,
right.
the aura, a rotation with
it.
Scenes and Verlander, dude. Like,
Well, that's why
do
also,
I need to
and
sell
not
anybody
be-
on that?
That's why I also brought up Max Scherzer because like also the psychopaths of Scherzer and Skeens would be
there's a comment here that brings
Connor?
up a good point. Like if like Verlander might be trying to chase 300. I don't know the odds of him getting
he
there,
is.
but like that was something that I thought about earlier in the offseason with like Kenley Jansen because he's not far away from 400 or 500 saves. He's very high. He's like about to be third on the all-time list. So I thought before they signed Soto that there might be a chance that they go after him. Anyways, yeah, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, no, for sure. Same. Appreciate it, Connor. We'll talk to you sometime again soon. But all right, everyone. So I want to thank John, Connor for coming on. For the rest of you, again, we're going to be doing this every other week. We want as many voices on as we can. So, you're in the chat. You want something to say in here. Come on, just talk. Again, even if it's for a minute, for 2 minutes, whatever it is, you just want to say something and leave. That's fine. But we'll be back again in 2 weeks, as mentioned. Actually, I think what's that lineup as holidays and such, but probably in 2 weeks. But Monday, Bucko Brew returns. Of course, NS9 Live that next Wednesday. And then Sicko Soundoff will be replaced with The Point next Friday. Jim will be hosting that. So tune in. And if there's any other emergency podcasts we have to do, we'll do those as well. But we love you guys. This kind of wraps up our winter meetings week with us. So that was fun. We want to thank all of you for helping us in doing all that also. But we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for on the podcast or catching us on YouTube. If you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.